I printed off a lot of material and spent a lot of hours going through this issue. As I talked to staff about it last week a little bit, I think we kind of came to the conclusion that we need to talk about the resource that we have and how we can best use that resource. But just kind of as a history, and some of you may have got this document I printed out, it talks about how we got to this point where we're at right now. Because until 1999, if you didn't use the water that was given to you by the state, that you didn't put an application and receive from the state, then you lost the water. So, we're talking about the water that's running down the river. This entire discussion is not about the potable water that we all use in our homes. This is simply about the irrigation water, the Virgin River that me and my kids played in for so long. If I want to diverge just a little, I was actually over inspecting the fire site that we had over there because for a lot of reasons. Anyway, I'm over there, and the BLM guy goes, "I saw some people walking by here with bathing suits. Do you actually go and swim in that water?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, man, that's the swimming hole. You need to go up to the sand gates if you really want to see what it's all about." So it's for a lot of us that grew up here and raised our families here, it's a recreation site too. We really enjoyed it. But it has other purposes. And until 1999, if you didn't use your water, you lost your water. And it had to be appertinent to the property to which you had that water right for. In 99, what they did is they changed the definition. And what they wanted to do is change the definition of a beneficial use, which really altered a lot of things and created the situation we're in right now. Because there had to be a beneficial use for those water shares. And so I'm going to go through this really quickly. If you want to hear more about all the legislative stuff that went on, I can sit with you at some other time because there's a lot of documents. So basically what they did is they changed the language to where you lost this is what they changed it to. This is NRS 533. It's Assembly Bill 380. And it's on your Exhibit A, if you have that. They changed all that language to this. Rights to the use of water service water shall not be deemed to be lost or otherwise forfeited for the failure to use the water therefrom for a beneficial purpose. And then they changed, basically they're changing the definition. They changed what a beneficial use was. A surface water right that is appertinent to land formerly used primarily for agricultural purposes is not subject to a determination of abandonment if the surface water right, and then it gives the provisions. First provision is appertinent to land that has been converted to urban use or has been dedicated to or acquired by a water purveyor, public utility or public body for municipal use. And you read that and you think that's kind of harmless, but it really was a game changer. And after that, if you just look at the history of the value of water shares, I mean, up to this point, you could purchase a water share, whether it's a mixed share or a big share, for $6,000 or less. With the passage of this and with the subsequent legislation, that number jumped at one time to over $80,000. And you think, what in the world happened? How can it go from $6,000 to $80,000 and just, Mick was like 72 or 73, and Amica's Mesquite Irrigation Company. We use these acronyms in government, and you guys are like, BIC. And BIC is a Bunkerville Irrigation Company share. So, and there's more water in a Bunkerville share than a Mesquite share. There's 10 acre feet versus like 8.7 or something like that. That's just a little bit of history.
But the MEC has a higher concentration of pre-29.
Which is huge. He's talking about 1929 and the Colorado River Pack and what that means. We could go on for hours about what all that entails. So in 99, they changed the definition of beneficial use. So now, you didn't have to use the water for agricultural purposes. You could actually, at that point, let a public company use that water share. It changed even more in 2008. And to me, 2008, talking about getting sold down the river, this is when we got really sold down the river. Senate Bill 66. And it all comes back to you just follow the money. It's like anything else, follow the money. There are people that had better lobbyists and, no offense, but more attorneys, and got something passed that maybe seemed harmless to some people, but is very detrimental to Moapa Valley and Virgin Valley. Senate Bill 66, if you have that. Senate Bill 66, the federal government was about to make a record of decision. And this you can find in the Federal Register. It shows what a nerd I am. I actually read this stuff. But it has to do, and everything you hear about when you talk about Lake Mead and the water shortage and the dropping of the levels, all that stuff, when you hear all that on the news, they're talking about this Federal Register, this record of decision by the Reclamation Bureau. That's what all this is about, because it gives guidelines for what happens when the lake reaches certain levels. Well, what happened in 2008 prior to that is the Senate Bill 66 that you can read, where they says, and I'm going to just read it, the use of water from any stream system as provided in this chapter and from underground water as provided in NRS 534 for any recreational purpose or the use of water from the Muddy River or the Virgin River, named us specifically, to create any developed shortage supply or intentionally created surplus is hereby declared to be a beneficial use, according to that Federal Register. That it couldn't have got any worse for us as a valley. I think the plan, the idea was to include the Muddy River and the Virgin River as a tributary to this plan. It benefited a few people probably, but for the most part, it dried up our valley. There's not many shares left in this valley that people have access to, and it's quite devastating for someone who's lived here, been here 35 years. It was a devastating time to see all this happen. But it happened, and so we have to live with the federal government. We haven't even felt, because the lake hasn't reached that level, we still have spurts of water here and there. You're going to feel it next year. You're going to find out what that document is all about. And it scares the heck out of me. This is the federal government, and there's mandates there that I don't think anyone even knows what's going to happen to us when they start talking about extraordinary conservation shares, and that it automatically becomes that when the lake reaches a certain level. It's kind of scary. That's just the legislative part. That's how we got to this point. This is how it happened. Should we got there? In my opinion, no. I feel like water should belong to the people. Like, that's how we started. That was in the Nevada Constitution. The water belonged to us, the people. If you didn't use it, it reverted back to the people. But it's changed. Nothing we can do about that. That's history. And I just wanted to give you a quick, brief history of how it even happened. We shouldn't even be having this discussion, but we are, because of your legislators, your senators, your assembly, you know. And so we're here. This is where we're at. This is what we're dealing with. And so it is what it is. So I started thinking, how can I present this in a way that we talked about the resource we have and what's important, what we need to do with that resource, and how important it is to what little we have left, how we can address that. And I call, if you have that little memory, I call it the Charlie Brown policy. That, by the way, the Charlie Brown policy has nothing to do with the fictional character in the comics, Charlie Brown. It's an actual person. Charlie Brown policy. This is an actual person who's actually the accountant for the city of Mesquite. The time I was the recreation superintendent for the city, we were building a recreation center in the valley here. I'm very excited. Something I dreamed of. I just wanted to be a part of that somehow, some way. Let me tell you how this policy works, the Charlie Brown policy works. I'm sitting in a meeting, and during this meeting, the city had proposed that residents of Bunkerville would have to pay a higher rate. They would have to pay a higher fee to go to the City of Mesquite Rec Center, because we're not collecting taxes from Bunkerville, and they're not participating in this building. And any financially, they're not participating. So we're going to charge you more to be able to come and use the rec center and to use the programs. I was a program. I did all the little leagues and all the footballs and everything, and they wanted me to charge more because of where you lived in our valley. That was didn't sit well with me, and it didn't sit well with me for a few reasons. Because they stood up there and they told them that they didn't participate financially. Problem is, I knew different. I sat in all the meetings. I knew that we had received a grant from Clark County to pay for that specific reason. They gave us that money, not only get it one time, we got it for 10 years. We're supposed to get this money. So people that lived in Bunkerville could use our rec center and not have to pay additional money for it. They pitched in. They saw the need. So we received money in their behalf from Clark County, because that's who they fall under. Well, I know it's hard to believe, but I actually brought this up, because I was there. I sat there. And I was part of these meetings. And so after my accountant and my city manager lied to the people and told them they had to pay more because they weren't participating, I stood up and corrected them. And I said, we receive a grant, $250,000, and $100,000 every year for 10 years for them. And it didn't sit too well. In fact, the next day, I was met by two police officers at the rec center telling me I can't go in. They wanted my keys. I can't go in because I challenged the city manager. Yeah, that's what I do. And I call it the Charlie Brown policy, because they like to hide stuff everywhere and not tell you the whole story. It's all about accounting. It's all about hiding. You can make numbers say whatever you want. But the truth was, we received money for that explicit purpose of letting them use that rec center. Didn't end there. So they thought they'd really punish me, and they put me over at the senior center. They would take the kids away from me, and I loved it. It was the greatest thing I'd ever done, because now I'm programming for seniors. Then I didn't have to get any parent permission slips. They all had money, and we were going everywhere. It was the greatest time of my life. We were having a great time doing this. And they came out, and we did a program that's called Meals on Wheels. And we actually delivered, at that time, about 80 to 100 meals, and it's a lot more than that now. And I actually went and did that myself, because I loved to go to the doorstep and give them their food and talk to them, and it was just an awesome, awesome time. Well, my city manager came out and said, we had to charge people from Arizona and Bunkerville more. And actually, I corrected him again. I said, well, actually, that's a federal program, and they don't have state lines, or they don't care where the bridge is at. So if you want to really go down this path, I guess we can forfeit our federal funding that's paying for this program to happen. And they always got mad because I called them liars. And I'd call them liars in public. Quit lying to people. Quit lying to them. Tell them the whole story. You know that program, the rest of the story? I'm that guy. I want you to know the rest of the story.
Paul Harvey.
Paul Harvey, yeah. The rest of the story there was we were receiving federal monies to provide those meals, and they couldn't draw lines anywhere. We had to provide it for everybody equally. And so that's what we did. That's what we did. It didn't matter that they were trying to hide the fact that we were receiving money to do that. They wanted to do it. Well, you think that's just the city of Mesquite? It's not. It's our government everywhere. The one thing I've learned about serving, and someone got mad at me today because I told them I served as a city councilman on the water board for 10 years, and they said, you guys don't serve. said, you all get money. And I'm like, oh, yeah? I guess that $80 is a huge compensation. But I feel like I serve. I feel like I do. We put these guys put tons of time and effort into this. They're all serving the people. The only reason we do this is because we're interested in helping the people. And so I wanted to show how the water district uses this Charlie Brown policy for us, for you. Because ideally, you the people say, we're going to give you our money, but please only take what you need. Don't take more than you have to have. And ideally, we want to live in a society and a government that's all they do. They don't soak us just because they can. But unfortunately, it happens so many times. I don't know how many times I sat in meetings where they were collecting this for the same thing from 5 different ways so they could get more money from you. And it's very frustrating. And it's that Charlie Brown policy that we start to see. Well, so we had this meeting and we talked about the budget, and these are some things I'm really proud of that we talked about tonight. I think it'll stay on, hopefully. And thank you I was at another meeting prior to this, and so I couldn't go pick this up, so I had someone do that for me, and thank you so much for doing that. Hopefully it will fall off. So this is our Virtue Valley Water District Revenue Evaluation. It's something we discussed and talked about, and this is looking out the future. This is our crystal ball, and we looking at crystal ball and say, we're doing our job. We're doing a good job. We're solvent. Like you heard today, even after everything we're going to do this year, $7 million. How many of you have $7 million in your emergency fund? That's not bad. $7 million. And you can look down the road for all these years. I think this goes 7 years. And I think we've got a good plan. We're trying to stay within our budget. That looks great. In fact, it looks like we're gaining some all the time. We don't know what the future holds. Our crystal ball doesn't tell us which lines are going to break and where we're going to need to build tanks and stuff like that. But hopefully growth helps pay for some of that. But I'm confident with these people that we are going to stay, and in fact we're mandated by the state to stay in the black and to have that emergency fund. I think this is wonderful. And then the next thing they showed you is something I'm really proud of, because I always dreamed that this is what government would do. This is our debt reduction allocation table. So I've been doing this for a number of years, and the truth is I've pretty much voted against every tax increase. But this was the only one I could stand behind and say, this is the right way to do it. What this says is we accrued a bunch of debt through bonds. We were building water treatment plants 2006, 2007, 2008. We expected this huge growth to happen, and we all know what happened. It just didn't happen. So we had all this money that we had bonded for, and then construction fell off. We weren't getting the revenues that we thought. And so the idea was that, hey, let's go to the people and say, we want you to help us pay this bond off. We need your help. And so here's what we're going to do. We're going to charge each of you, each resident, $10 a month. Would you all pitch in $10 a month? And as we paid off that debt, those bonds, we're actually going to reduce that number. Most of these guys are looking forward to the day when you get the bill, and you're like, where's the, it's only $9.38 this month. I thought it was supposed to be $10. And you're going to call and say, I think you did something wrong. My debt reduction is only $9.38 this month. And they're going to say, yeah, because it's got a sunset clause. And every time we pay off one of these bonds, we're going to reduce that number. And that way government should work. They should ask us for what they need. And when we get it, we should say, we got what we needed. Thanks. We're going to reduce that. You can have your money back now. Well, I'm really, again, very proud of that. It's something that I was involved in. I voted against the tax increase, but I was always in favor of this because I thought it was a wonderful way, and it's always what I dreamed of. Here's where my puppet comes into play. And again, I won't use my puppet voice. So,
Okay, this I want to see.
so what we do then is then we start using the Charlie Brown principle. And we go out and we tell the golf courses who are using the water shares that we're not even collecting enough money from you to pay the interest on the bonds. We're subsidizing you. Really? Let's see. Man, we're looking pretty good here and this. You realize that they're not $10 a month. Businesses are paying $200 a month for the debt reduction. They're contributing $200, but you're not participating. You're not paying enough, golf courses. You're not participating. And we're not even making enough to pay off the bond. And I thought, well, wait a minute. I thought you just showed us the table where we're paying the bond off. And we're reducing that number. But they're saying, no, don't look at that. Look at the puppet here. Look at the puppet. No, you guys are still looking at the table that says we're paying the bonds off. You're supposed to look at the puppet and believe me when I tell you that they're not participating, that they're not doing their fair share. And we've all together decided that we're going to pay off the bonds. We're all going to participate, but you're not doing your part. We're not getting enough interest from you and your bond shares to do your part. Charlie Brown is all over the place. We're going to collect it from you because we can, not because we need it. Not because we're not in good financial position. And what's worse, we're doing it based upon what Las Vegas is paying for those water shares. And Las Vegas is not using one single drop of the water. It cracks me up. No, it makes me mad. I'm going to tell you the truth. It makes me so mad to think that we're supposed to issue water on beneficial use, and the only people even using the water are the golf courses. And that's not a beneficial use. They're the only people that actually take the water out of the river, pump it to their lakes, treat it so they can put it on grass and grow grass. And we want to penalize you. That's who we're going to go after. You. The only people that are actually using the water. Because every drop that we give to Las Vegas just gets banked and held in deposit. That's all it's doing. They don't use one drop. Because I guarantee you, if Las Vegas, the Southern Nevada Water Authority, had to use that water, if they had to use that water and sell it as potable, they couldn't do it. They could not do it. It would be so costly that they could not sell it. They could not use one drop. They couldn't use that water and sell it to you. I challenge any of you to take that water and try to go grow grass. Go grow grass with that water. I challenge you. It's going to die. It's going to turn crystally hard, and it's going to actually crack underneath your feet, and it's going to kill your lawn. And that's and the golf courses say, we'll take it, and we'll treat it, and we'll use it. The only people that are using the water, that's who we're going to penalize. Again, not because we have to. We don't have to do it, but we can. And there's nothing you can do about it, because we're going to compare you to the business model of Las Vegas. And in a year from now, when I come back to Mesquite, and you're faced with that federal legislation, and they have those things imposed on you, and you're enslaved to SMWA, because they're going to have to start using that water. You know what? They don't have to actually use that water. They get to trade it for Colorado River water. Costs them 7 cents. 7 cents to treat it. And they're charging $3.50 for every 1,000 gallons. For every share of water that they can trade, they're making $80,000 a year. $80,000. That's not hard to pay. That's not very hard to pay $1,200 when you're going to make $80,000. I'd do that in a heartbeat. I'd give you $12,000 so I can make $80,000. So, the Charlie Brown principle, they're going to keep waving this over here. Now look at this, look at this. You guys are still looking at that debt chart that we're going to pay off together. Instead of what our real expenses are. And by heck, they're doing a dang good job. We look pretty darn good for the next 7 years, and it won't matter at all. One last comment. I used to get in trouble for this all the time, because I would call them liars, I admit. And they'd say, no, we're not lying. We're just not giving them all the information. It's disinformation, is the quote he used. It's just disinformation. We're not going to give you the rest of the story. We're not going to tell you the whole story. And I say it's lying. Anytime trying to deceive people, it's called lying. I can tell you right now, 10 years I've done this. And every backdoor meeting, every closed door meeting that I sat in, where they were conspiring against you, and they are sitting in these meetings and figuring out how they can take it to you, every one of those came from staff. Not one of those came from a board member or a city council member or in Southern Nevada. Not one of those meetings. They all came from staff. And so I kept telling staff, I was telling my fellow board members, I've only done it once here, I'm going to do it again as I close. It's your responsibility to protect the people from the staff. That's who you need to protect them from, the staff. Because they're going to continue to do this. They're going to continue to do all this. And they're going to tell you that we have to charge, who knows? Who knows what it's going to be. And it's your job to protect these people from them. And that's the truth. Is there any questions about anything specific? Talk about encumbrances. You know, when we assign these numbers, it's because we have assets, we have liabilities, and we have to assign numbers to them. Supposedly, we don't have any liabilities or encumbrances on water, but somehow it's costing us a lot of money every month to have those. Any other questions about legislation stuff?
No, not necessarily legislation, but do you take into consideration like opportunity cost?
Oh, yeah. And I've said this, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Bob. This is Bob Bunker, by the way.
What the opportunity cost is, I assume this is all about, like it wasn't quite clear, but you're talking about selling or leasing water to Las Vegas for a lot of money versus leasing or selling it to the golf course for very little money.
Right.
And the golf course sold it for a lot of money, now they want to buy it back for a little money. There's an opportunity cost that people who aren't involved in the golf courses will incur, which you can say subsidized or you can not say subsidized, but that's kind of what it is.
Absolutely, and it's a great point. It's because this is really a hard thing for me. You know, you can tell I'm emotionally tied to this because I remember what we used to be like here and all the fields and all the grain and it's all gone. But at the same time, these individual water right owners, I don't own those shares. I don't know what I would do. I can't honestly stand up and tell you that I wouldn't lease it. If I can get $1,000 a share for my water and not ever have to do anything again, just let it run down the river, you know, $100,000 a year, and if I had 100 shares, I can't stand. So do they have an opportunity? Yeah, they do. And Aaron and I were sitting at the meeting there in Las Vegas, and they're talking about this, and it was such an eye-opener. The guy from California stands up and says, we've crossed over the line. Now, I can't go anywhere. He says, I can't go anywhere without a farmer or a rancher coming up to me and trying to get me to buy or lease his water. Because, in his words, we're now subsidizing the farmers not to farm, not to rent. That's where we're at. We just like back east, and they're doing it for a reason, because they have to keep that water level in the lake at a certain level. Because once we go below that, it's trouble. So yeah, there's a huge opportunity. Where the difference is, in my opinion, is we're public facility, we're public utility. We're supposed to be trying to benefit the community. We lease some water shares to SNWA because there's probably no one else to give them to. And so, yeah, I think there's some opportunities there that maybe you can take advantage of. But as a public utility, I have real issues with letting our water go down to Las Vegas. I just don't think, I'm not sure. If we needed to have the money, if it were a money issue, we had to have that money, maybe you go down that path. But we just increased your rates 84% in 4 years.
So if you could decrease our rates by leasing them money, wouldn't you want to?
Yeah, that's what we're gonna do, is we're gonna charge you less when that will never happen. It will never happen. You will always pay more. Your bill will never, you will never pay less for water, ever. Those days are long gone. I'm sorry, Kathy, and then we go to...
I'm Kathy Busman. I'm the controller of Old Creek Golf Club. At the last meeting I was at, there was a comment made that the shares that Wolf Creek is leasing are costing the water district $747, I think, and we're paying $250 a share. I would just like to, at some point, understand where that cost is coming from, because our lease agreement states that Virgin Valley Water District represents and warrants that Virgin Valley Water District holds title to the irrigation shares free and clear of liens and encumbrances. So that, to me, I interpret that to say they didn't borrow money for them, and they're free and clear. So what is making up that $747? I would just like to understand that.
Kathy, you're distracting us from the issue here, you know. You need to stay focused on the fact that we need more of your money. You're
So
losing.
no bonds paid for that water?
No.
No.
Okay, I don't want to go here. I didn't want to go here,
I know
but
that.
okay, let's talk about that. I wanted to avoid that whole topic because there was some 2008 bonds that they got too much money. They built all these treatment plants, and they still have money left over. They tried to defease some of that back into the 2008 bond, and were actually very successful at doing that. But they still have money, and they bought, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's 34 shares of Bunkerville Irrigation Company water with those shares, with that money, with bond money. Yeah, there's about $2 million in bond money spent to buy Bunkerville Irrigation shares. You know how much water the golf courses can use out of that? Anyone have any idea? Not one drop. Not one, but you have to pay for it. We're going to make you pay for it. Yeah. You can't use one drop. You can't use the product at all, because that's the American way, right? If you can't use the product, you still have to pay for it? I don't know. No, it's the government way. Yeah. We're just going to make you pay for it. You can't use one drop of that water, but by heck, you're going to pay for it. We're going to raise your rates and make you pay. Even though the 2008 bond's going to be paid off in 2017, a lot of it. So we're all participating in paying off the bond, but somehow you're not participating, you know. Golf courses, my heck, you guys aren't doing your share, you need to pay more. We all took that burden on us. We're all paying for that water. We're all paying that bond off. And unfortunately, we can't use any of that water. And a lot of it was sent down to Las Vegas. Half of it. Sent to Las Vegas, and they're making, you know, $1,200, $1,500 a share on it. So they're doing okay. They did what they could. There's not a lot of businesses in Bunkerville that can use the water. Send it down. And I don't like it, but send it down. Sorry, Dave.
You referred to they are having meetings. Are you saying the Virgin Valley Water District's having meetings?
Every meeting, and I'm referring to all the meetings at the
Virgin Valley Water District.
You know, as both Virgin and as a city council person, whenever there's been a meeting, a closed door meeting, that they're talking about you, and it's a meeting where they're going to take.
Let's talk about the Virgin Valley Water District. You're a board member of the Virgin Valley Water District.
I am.
Okay. Are you saying there are meetings being held that you're accusing staff of conspiring against the golf courses? Are you making that statement?
I think just the fact that we're having this conversation.
I think that's a yes or no. I'm sorry, but that's a yes or no.
No, it's not yes or no. It's the fact that we're having discussions about how we're going to charge and what numbers can we throw and put together to make them.
It's not to be argumentative with you. You stated that these people are meeting.
No, that's not what the intent was.
To punish the golf courses. I took that out of your comments.
So are you saying, if that's what you want to say, I would say yes. I would say yes.
So you're saying that this staff is having meetings to conspire against the golf courses?
Absolutely, yes. I would definitely say yes to that.
Thank
That
you.
I believe that that's their intent.
I just want to have a specific.
Yeah,
a s-
And I can-
you're
and I can
making
say
a
yes to
specific
that.
allegation.
absolutely. I would definitely say that is the intent. Any other questions? I appreciate your time. This has been something I've had to deal with for so many years, and it's so frustrating because there's so many easy answers to fix it, and we won't do it. Kathy?
One more question. My understanding is that the shares that Wolf Creek in particular leases, they were mixed shares. Is that correct?
Yes, they have to be mixed shares.
Okay.
And by the way, Wolf Creek, when in the first inception of Wolf Creek, they had to sell. They were in bankruptcy because of a previous partner, and they had to sell their water. They had 66 shares of water. They had to sell $6,000 a share. Any of us would give double that right now. They didn't make a lot of it. In fact, they made zero on the deal. That money went to the bank and paid off other creditors. Wolf Creek made nothing on the water deal. Not a penny.
Bubba, but another golf course that's getting this water, had water, they sold to Vegas for top dollar, and now they're leasing water back. What do you say about that?
Well, I don't know if we're talking about the Oasis.
Sure.
Yeah, the Oasis which was the best move I've ever seen a golf course make. They had overhead, and so what they did is they took water shares, sold their water shares when water was at its peak, and took that money and paid off their overhead. They're losing their revenue is about $2 million a year less this year than it was before they did that.
Right.
The only reason you have Oasis Golf Club right now is because they took their water, sold it, took the money, and paid off their overhead. So now you're still able to drive up there and see these great golf courses. Every major development's around a golf course. So yeah, they did. You know, just like other people who sold shares, they did, and they used it to pay off their debt. And so they still are in business. And thank goodness. You know, Alan Green could have taken the money and run, and he invested it right back into Mesquite. I mean, I can't thank him enough. What a place. That's what he does for us is unbelievable. But all these businesses, if you're a business owner, thank you. My goodness. Thank you. Anything else?
Thank you for your honesty.
It's been a pleasure. Kind of bittersweet for me. In a situation where I have to leave Mesquite because of work. And so I won't be able to be here to do this anyway. So I turned my book over to Sandra, and I've burned a lot of it, but I pray that Mesquite can be great and stay viable. And we're an integral part in that. You're kidding yourself if you don't think tourism is the most important product we have here in Mesquite. We don't exist without that. And we've got to make sure that they're viable. And they're not. They're losing money every year. For heaven's sake, let's be honest. Except for Oasis, who's probably maybe breaking even now. Falcon Ridge, Wolf Creek. I don't even want to talk about Sun City. You guys on the hill, I heard some of you had to pay extra for that up there. They're not even close to, they're never going to make money on that course. So, anything else? And it's not just golf, it's all businesses. And it's things. And you've contributed so much to who we are. So, thank you for allowing me that time. Be the last time.